Let me see here. Okie dokie. Here we go. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hanukkah Sameach. I'm here with my good friend Rico. Haven't seen you in a little bit. Rico, it's wonderful to welcome you back. I've been getting all sorts of emails, all sorts of phone calls saying, where's Enrico? Where is Enrico? You are quite the popular person here. And so we are thrilled to have you back here. And I have my candles down here. I'll move them back a little so maybe you can see them a bit better. We lit candles before the service as a community for both Shabbat and Hanukkah. Try not to burn down the synagogue right now. So move that up here. There we go. So we're thrilled to welcome you. Shabbat, but also Hanukkah. A festival of joy, a festival of light, I think in a year where we greatly need it. But we will begin with some Shabbat melodies. Enrico, please lead us.
We're on page 128. Hine Matov. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב שבת אחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב מנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. Page 142 for Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachim leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. מלך מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ברכוני לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. ממלך מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Now page 138, Lechadodi. And so, by popular demand, we're actually going to do two melodies for Lechadodi. Some congregants really like the All of Me cover of Lechadodi, and I wanted to add something new for this week and something a little more traditional for the holidays. So, we'll do the first part traditional, and then the last two verses we'll do the All of Me Lechadodi. So here we are. Lecha dodi likrat kalai alalai 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 pne Shabbat nekabelai lecha dodi likrat kalai alalai 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 pne Shabbat nekabelai שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד כי שמענו לעולם מיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד שם ולתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת קלי עלי 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 בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה יללי פני שבת נקבלה. Verse 5. התעוררי כי באורק קומי אורי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת קלה יללי פני שבת נקבלה. And now we're going to switch to the olive mute one. לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה. We all rise for the final verse and we turn to face the doorway to welcome the Sabbath bride. בואי ושלום עטרת בלם גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה. You may be seated. Shabbat Shalom. We turn now to page 136 for Mizmor LeDavid. Such lies, such lies. No, it's page 136. I got it right. Mizmor LeDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kavod shemo yishtachavu l'Adonai b'chadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod hirim, Adonai al mahim rabim, Kol Adonai b'choch, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, V'shaber Adonai et arzech Lebanon v'yarkidem kemo egel Lebanon v'Sirion kemo v'Nereimim. Page 144 for the Hatzi Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברה חירותי והמליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ומי יתברך
וישתבח, ויתפרבר יתמונן ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקדושה בריחו, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא ואמרו
Amen. Please rise.
We're
Page
on
146.
146 for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated, and the rabbi will join us for a reading.
Sure. One of the things that I love, I'll talk about this a bit later, about Hanukkah is, of course, it's the Festival of Lights, but it takes place literally at the darkest time of the year. And there's some intentionality because of that. It gets dark earlier now than at any other point in the year, but beyond just that, Hanukkah was put at a time when there's no moon at all. And so, outside is really, like this week, the darkest time of the entire year. And I know that darkness can be a scary, bad thing, but it gives us the opportunity when we can create light to have that light take the darkness away and to bounce all throughout that darkness. And I think that's what we do as Jewish people. And so, despite all that, we have to sometimes thank God for darkness because it gives us an opportunity for our light to be shown throughout the world. We are on page 148 as we thank God for bringing on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah potech she'arim, u'v'vuna mishanei itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'mesader et hakochavim, ומשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו, בורא יום ולילה, כולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Turn to page 150 as we thank God for loving our people Israel.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובכם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה, באחוותך, על אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. Page 154, ואהבת. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלבתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובחומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אדוני אלוהיכם.
When our people fled Egypt, looking for a better tomorrow than their today, they stood on the shore of the sea. And in that moment, they waited, and none of them were willing to step forward. None of them had the courage to perhaps see what was ahead. Some of them said, let's go back. Was not good being a slave, but at least we know what to expect. But then there was one person, and his name was Nachshon, a name that many of us don't know. But without Nachshon, we wouldn't be here today. Nachshon ran through the crowd and said, essentially, that he would rather die trying to have a better tomorrow for his children than to live the rest of his life as a slave. And Nachshon plunged into the water. And when he did, there was a few seconds where he didn't come back up. And the feeling of despair went through the crowd. But all of a sudden, Nachshon emerged and spat out water and shouted, "Who is like you, Adonai our God?" And in that moment, the sea split. And lo and behold, the fears of every single person disappeared. And every person found the courage to go through that split water to the other side towards a better tomorrow. And so what we see from Nachshon in this story is how his courage, his faith, was contagious. How he served as a light and an inspiration that then kindled other lights within our community. And once they got to the other side, all the people began to sing those words of "Who is like you, Adonai our God," the Mi Chamocha. And they did because for the first time, they experienced what they felt was a miracle. Something that we're celebrating this Hanukkah. Miracles. And how we can experience them throughout our lives, whether they're grand like that or more subtle. So let's join together in appreciating the miracles that we have in our own lives and think about how we can spread hope and faith and courage to others as well, as just as Nachshon did, as we sing the Mi Chamocha, page 158.
Mi Chamocha כמוך באלים, באלים אדוני. מי כמוך, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נור תהילות אוסף אליי, נור תהילות אוסף אליי. I turn now to page 160, the Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'chamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'chamideinu malkeinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzedkeinu uvoeinu l'chaim u'shalom meitav adolam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'chamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'chamideinu malkeinu l'chaim. Now page 162 for the Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Israel et hashabat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Page 164. We all rise for the Amidah. Adonai, sevatai tivtak, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu,
Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וחונך הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ומחוב, ומביא גאולה לבני נחם למען שמו באחווה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, ורזת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מחייך עם בחסד, מחייך הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומחיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מחמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ואין מנעתה לחיות כל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. And we continue silently with the words of the Amidah or the meditations of your heart until page 180.
And note on Hanukkah, we also add page 556 to our prayers.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, אמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
At this time, we turn our thoughts to those who are in need of healing of the mind, body, and spirit. One of my first Hanukkah memories that I had was actually in a hospital when my parents was hospitalized over Hanukkah when I was about 4 or 5. And I remember lighting the Hanukkah inside the hospital room with my family. And that's the experience, fortunately, that many folks are having right now, and perhaps this year, due to the COVID pandemic, more so than other years. And what I always try to remember is how Hanukkah is a story of hope. When things seemed hopeless, we were able to have miracles and able to rebuild and able to recover as a people. And so hopefully right now, as I feel so tired of saying this week after week after week, we experienced the worst week for our country in terms of fighting this pandemic. And it's gotten to a point where when this pandemic started, hearing that a person in our community had been diagnosed with COVID was a shock to many of us. And now so many of us, basically all of us, know people who have gotten sick from this illness. And so we pray for their recovery, and we pray for all of us to enter a place of healing. I talked to other faith leaders who talk about how their communities are suffering tremendously as a result of this pandemic. And so we pray for our brothers and sisters of all faiths and all backgrounds, all walks of life. And hopefully this Hanukkah can be one that brings everybody hope as we continue onward. We are on page 371 for our prayer for healing the Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mechor Chaveracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
This week we think of these members of our community and their loved ones. Elchanan Yitzhak ben Shimon Pinchas, Esther bat Malka, Golda bat Sarah, Gitaleah bat Mashahana, Michael ben Manya, Shifra Fega bat Rachel, Israel Esser ben Moshe, Israela bat Donna, Maureen Berry, Dan Carter, Denise Dobling, Alexander Dalwitz, Carl Gallup, Will Goldman, Sandy Kahn, Sharon Katz, Ray Kesner, Ed Kuhn, Betty Linehan, Megan Magleby, Jamie Manson, Tyler Matthews, Janet Morley, Shari Pedersen, Robert Prodis, Cheryl Rothenberg, Gary Rubenstein, Anel Santoyo, Penny Spector, Angela Stefani, Gloria Sussman, Dustin Wallace, and Judy Wolf. If you have a name to add, I invite you to do so at this time.
Mishaberach Imotenu Mechor Chaveracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, Hanukkah Sameach. Often I like to talk about my travels, and since oftentimes Hanukkah would fall on over Thanksgiving or over winter break more typically, there were lots of opportunities where I got to go somewhere and where I could experience the Hanukkah in a different part of the world. But I think one of the most important experiences I had with Hanukkah came in the Arab world, actually. And that was in Egypt. Now, Egypt, in case you don't know, even though we read in the Torah that we're not ever supposed to go back to Egypt, there's a history of our people going back to Egypt. Jeremiah went to Egypt after he left the land of Israel. Maimonides lived most of his life in Egypt. We found, of course, the Cairo Geniza that had a treasure trove of over 100,000 documents detailing ritual life for our people in Egypt. And at one point, Alexandria, Egypt, was the most populated Jewish city in the world. And what's difficult, though, when looking at the Jewish history in the Arab world is often looking at what once was versus what there is today. And so with Egypt, that's true as well. Because at the time of the establishment of the State of Israel, there were approximately 80,000 Jews living in Egypt. And after the rise to power of Gamal Abdel Nasser in 1956, we see Jews leaving in exponential numbers from Egypt. And today there are less than 100 Jews in the entire country. So, in rabbinical school, over Hanukkah, my friends and I had a long weekend, and we made our way down to the Sinai Peninsula of Egypt. And what happened there was we snuck in some candles. And when we snuck in some candles in the middle of the night, our first night there, we wandered into the desert. And once we were far enough away from other people, because I have to say, of all the countries I've been to, including about the 10 Arab countries I've been to, Egypt was the one where I kind of felt the most hostility towards Jews. So we didn't want to advertise that here we were, these rabbinical school students in Egypt. We went out into the middle of the desert where nobody else could see us. And we built a little Hanukkah out of sand. And then we stuck in our candles, lit them, and in the middle of the Egyptian desert, we sang the blessings. Now that was a powerful experience in itself. And the candles were about the size of these candles here, nothing special. But what was more magical than anything else was when we left and went back to the town and we went out to a little restaurant and we looked out at the desert. And in the desert, there was no light pollution or anything. And we could see, probably half a mile away, little flames in the sand from our Hanukkah, all the way away from there. And it was amazing how these tiny little candles had lit up the sky and created light. And like I said earlier, the first time as a people that we experienced hope and miracles and knowing that our tomorrow could be better than our todays was that moment when Nachshon dove into the water and the sea split. Nachshon was kind of like a shamash. And in case you don't know that word shamash, that's the name of our leader candle. And it comes from the same root as the Hebrew word shemesh, which means sun. The sun, after all, is the source of all of our light and all of our warmth. Like the main theory behind how the dinosaurs went extinct was there was a giant cloud of dust that blocked out the sun, and they starved to death and froze to death as they couldn't get warmth and their vegetation could not get any light. So we have the Shemesh, the sun that provides light to all other things and creates light from it. And the same is true for our Shamash. We use it to light the other candles. Without that Shamash, our Hanukkah would be dark. And it becomes the source of our light and our warmth. And it's upon all of us as Jewish people to be the Shamash onto the world. Now, like I said, we saw from Nachshon how when he had courage, when he was that Shamash, that leader, all of a sudden, everybody else, he lit a flame from everybody else, and they all moved forward because of him. We read from the Hasidic master, the Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, about his stories in the Seven Beggars, his tale of stories about the little that holds much. And he talks about how so many things can be the little that holds much. Like, for instance, there was a mountain where everybody would dump their garbage. And he said this mountain is the little that holds much because it's only one mountain. But look how it holds all these things that none of us could carry on our own. Somebody else said, my eye is the little that holds much. It's this tiny little thing, but I can see for miles and miles and miles. And everybody kept saying, look what it is in our community that's so small, but can do something so great. And for us, I think, I often look at the Jewish people as the little that holds much. We make up only about a fifth of the entire world's population, a fifth of 1% of the entire world's population. 14 million people in a world of about over 8 billion people, a fifth of 1%. And here in Utah, we make up less than 1% of the population. But look how much we contribute. We have Jews in government here. We have Jews who are leading in the business sector. We have 6 epidemiologists right now in our community who are on the front lines battling the coronavirus. And we see that despite making up 2% of our nation, we make up a third of the Supreme Court and also 40% of the Nobel Prizes for the entire world. We Jews are very small, but we can do a lot to inspire the entire world around us and make the world a better place. We can be that little that holds much. And what Isaiah, the prophet, challenged us to do was to be a light unto the nations of the world. Isaiah pretty much told us that we need to be a Shamash. We need to be the light that stands out and set an example to everybody else on how to be a good moral person, and how if we're making a difference in the world and people see that, it will inspire them, regardless of their walk of life, to do so as well. And in our book on ethics, Pirkei Avot, we are told, in a place where there is no humanity, strive to be the one who acts human. I think that there's a part of us as Jews, and this is really kind of where Reform Judaism and Conservative Judaism became popular, that we want to fit in. We want to be like other people. You see on our bima, we have, in addition to the flag of Israel, a flag of America. It's important for us to fit in and to assimilate to a degree. But what we learn is that to be Jewish means to not only at times stand apart, but to stand out. and to be an inspiration unto others. Now, 2020 has been perhaps the worst year any of us have experienced. It's been a time of darkness. And like I said earlier, this week in particular is notable for a couple of reasons. One, it has been the darkest week for our country in fighting the coronavirus. But two, it's also been physically the darkest week that we've experienced all year. And it's incumbent upon us to be that light that gets rid of that darkness. I encourage you, when you light your Hanukkah, turn off all the other lights and see how that shamash, the light of it, bounces throughout the whole room. And all of a sudden, you can now see around the entire room because of that one little flame. We can be that flame. We must be that flame. Even when there are times when we feel as though we can't do anything, we can be like Nachshon. Nachshon didn't push everybody across the water and onto the other side of the sea. But what Nachshon did was he showed courage. He showed hope. He showed positivity. And on the other side, he showed joy when he emerged from that water. And for his fellow people, he showed concern. We can show all those things. And just as Nachshon did, it will light that flame among others. They will start to feel joy. They will start to feel positivity. They will start to feel hope and concern for others and courage in a moment of darkness. All year long, we've talked about contagiousness and how it's bad to be contagious. But the shamash is contagious. The shamash is the one that creates light and builds light. Every day, we don't start, like Shammai said in the Talmud we should, with a full Hanukkah lit and then take away lights every night. No, we do what Rabbi Hillel said, which is build light every night and grow that flame and grow it and grow it and grow it. This is what Isaiah told us to do, and this is the purpose of the shamash. And so even in these darkest of times, with this season, this festival, this holiday of joy, we have to remember it's more than presents, it's more than latkes. It's more than dreidel. It's about being the shamash and being a light unto the rest of the world. Shabbat Shalom, Hanukkah Sameach. A couple of announcements. I want to thank Enrico for leading us beautifully tonight, as he always does. And we have a whole bunch of Hanukkah stuff that's going to be a lot of fun for our community. At 7 o'clock every night, our youth directors, Eli and Amy, are doing different things with KG via live stream and lighting candles, and they have games planned for every night, so if you have kids, check that out. And at 6 o'clock every night, I'm lighting candles and having discussions, kind of fun discussions. Tonight we had a Latke versus Hamantashen debate, and yesterday we talked about our traditions over Hanukkah, what your family traditions are. Every night it's something fun at 6 o'clock. Join me for that. But tomorrow night might be the most fun of all those nights. And that is because at 6 o'clock tomorrow, we will have Havdalah and then light the Hanukkah. And right after that, we are having a world-famous magician who happens to live right here in Salt Lake City and is Jewish, Paul Draper, who grew up here at Kolami, performs at the Magic Castle. You've spent time in Hollywood. You know the Magic Castle. is like the premier magic place of the world. He's a regular there. He is going to be doing a magic show for us. It's free for our members, $20 or something like that. For non-members, you can check out on our website or in the virtual programming the link for that. That should be spectacular. And then he's doing another show on Sunday at 4 with just the religious school students. And Karen Nielsen Hansen will be playing some tunes at that. That should be a lot of fun. A couple other things. One other Hanukkah thing going on with our community is Thursday next week, Neshama Karlbach will be doing a concert nationally to benefit the conservative movement internationally. We are participating in that. Please watch, join in. Neshama Karlbach is a world-famous singer. Her father was the late Shlomo Karlbach, a very famous Jewish musician in his own right. And beyond that, this Sunday afternoon and Wednesday afternoon will be classes with Rabbi Wanger and Faye Lincoln. They are learning on Wednesdays the Parsha HaShavua, the weekly Torah portion, and on Sunday they were studying Proverbs. And the last thing I'm going to add out there, thank you to everybody who contributed spectacularly to our Hanukkah for All, helping underprivileged families in our community celebrate Hanukkah. And also thank you to all of you who have contributed as well to our High Holiday campaign. We are inching towards our goal, but we still need a bit of help to keep our lights on, to be an inspiration to this to Greater Utah, and to be dynamic and innovative in difficult times. So thank you to those of you who have contributed, and if you haven't yet, if you could please help us out during this holiday season, we would be most grateful. So that is about all for right now. Shabbat Shalom, Hanukkah Sameach. We are going to turn now to page 586. Oh, look at that. We have one candle remaining on our Hanukkah, and of course it's the Shamash. Go be a Shamash. We are on page 586. We rise for the Elena.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגוייר הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו חיים וגורלנו ככל המונם.
ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לבני מלך מלכי המלכים, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We continue silently until page 590. ונאמר בחיי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום חחוד יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
May be seated. This time we think of those who the flame of their life has been extinguished, yet the flames that they lit as a result of how they lived their lives continue to burn brightly. And how we continue their light today. If you are remembering a loved one, I'll ask you for their name in a moment, but sadly we've had a lot of deaths lately, and just want to please remind people to be safe and healthy during this very difficult time. There's an end in sight. Please, let's not let our guard down. I've had to do far too many funerals from this virus lately. But this week, in the period of Shloshim, we remember these loved ones and members of our community who have died in the past 30 days. Longtime member Leon Shapashnikov, Marie Huchard, mother of Lilyfield, Ted Baser, uncle of Lana Stoddard, Sandy Pepper, longtime member, Jan Snyder, sister of Jolene Snyder, Irma Richards, a local Jewish person who's laid to rest, and Allison White Gamble, a family member and friend to many in our community, and the daughter of Cliff and Nancy White. And this week, we observe the following Yortzites anniversary of the passing of these loved ones: Isidore Altman, Sophie Andrins, Sadie Appleman, Jenny Berkowitz, Lena Cohn, David Jacob, Blake Davies, Simon Frank, Jim Gurdon, Philip Goldberg, Sarah Gordon, Sam Gus, Zalman Gus, Hal Hallett, Claire Hintelith, Patricia Koshin, Henrietta Lassar, Justin Lingstall, Harry Mednick, Ruffel Middleman, David Mofjum, Edwin C. Nelson, Brian Reagan, Benjamin Milton Rowe, Isaac Rose, Esther Phyllis Rosenblatt, William Rubin, Susan Sondak, Samuel Spitz, Israel Spitz, Harry Weiser, and David Zussman. And if you have a name to add, I invite you to do so at this time. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. If you are in mourning or it's your tradition to do so, I invite you to please rise. Yikadal, Yikadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma Divrach Yirtei V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon of Yomechon of Chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agalah, Yizman Kari V'imru, Amen. Yeh Shmei Rabba Mivrach Le'olam U'me'omaya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitalei V'yitalal Shemei Dekudishah B'rechu, Le'elam in Kol Bechata V'shirata, Tush Bechata V'nehemata, Da'am Yiram Be'alma V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Osei Shalom B'mromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who are mourning comfort those who are bereaved. May you find light in a time of your darkness. And that said, I do want to wish you all Shabbat Shalom and also a happy Hanukkah. Rika, what do you have for a Hanukkah song?
I have a Hanukkah song.
Hooray! Let's
I have
close out with a
the,
Hanukkah song.
You know that old chestnut, the old favorite, Maozur.
Maozur,
It's on page
love it.
669 in your Siddurim. Maozur. Maozur Yeshuati, Chanea Leshabeach, Tichon Beit Tefilati, Sham Toda Nezabeach, Leitachin Marbeach, Nitzarcham Neabeach, Az Egmor Beshir Mizmor, Chanukat Chamizbeach, Maozur Yeshuati, Chanel Shabeach, Tichon Beit Tefilati, Sham Toda Nezabeach, Leitachim Matbeach, Nitzarcham Menabeach, Az Egmor Beshir Mizmor, Chanukat Chamizbeach, Az Egmor Beshir Mizmor, Chanukat Hamizbeach. Ag Sameach, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Hanukkah Sameach. Thank you, Enrico.